Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest. One should offer their respectful obeisance on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. To Narayan, Rishi, the supremest human being, and to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Shrinvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Hridyantastoya Badrani Vidhunoti Sarhitsatam. Sri Krishna, who is Paramatma, the super soul in the heart of each living entity, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses the heart of material desires of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular hearing of the Bhagavatam, by rendering service to the pure devotee, almost all that is troublesome to the heart is completely destroyed, and love of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, established as an irrevocable fact. I should connect it to the TV. Yes, very good fish. Okay, now let us. Okay, we have it. Nice. Yesterday we're continuing on with Vidura giving Dhritarashtra instructions on what he should really focus on here. And he's actually also illuminating the very miserable situation that most people actually fall into in family life, is they stay too long. You know, there's a certain portion where yes, it's very honorable to do your family life, but then at some portion, if you try and stay in family life, it gets progressively more and more miserable. And Dhritarashtra had overstayed his welcome, and Vidura was letting him know that this is a very fearful situation for you. Get out immediately. So we will reread that, but before we do, let's try and channel the blessings of our acharyas. If anyone wants, you're more than welcome to scroll through. If you want to chant, if you know the prayers, then what's the need? But if you'd like to scroll through, you can. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Svayamrupa Kadamayam Vidati Svabhavantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupan Sargajatam Sahagana Yagana Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namaskute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhani Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Hare. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Dinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyatra Deshatarine. Jai. So, very good. I keep dropping my laptop lately. I keep getting... Yes. I just keep nicking the whole thing up. So, but it's still working, so that's good news. All right. The last verse we read is, whoever's under the influence of supreme Kala, eternal time, must surrender his most dear life, and what to speak of other things such as wealth, honor, children, land, and home. And this is explaining the miserable situation. It's actually said frightful situation. That's staying in family life and trying to extract happiness out of family life past the phase of life where you should. So that's practically speaking. In the Vedas, actually, they say at the end of 50 years of age, you start to detach from the family life. Nowadays, some people, I know some people who they start getting married and having children past 50 years. And this is not the recommendation, and it actually creates a very frightful situation, because now everything's falling apart around you, but you're trying to keep up the energy of the new kids. Now I have to make enough money to keep my wife and kids happy, and it becomes more and more exceedingly difficult. Dhritarashtra, he was cared for by Yudhishthir, but he was sitting there trying to enjoy royal happiness as his body got more and more frightful, and also he was dishonored by everyone. Everyone knew that he was the perpetrator of the whole past war, and responsible for so much nonsense. And on top of that, he was being maintained by the same parties that were responsible for the killing of all of his 100 sons. So just how miserable a situation actually is this. But this is the level of intoxication if one who's too attached to family life. We will adjust ourselves in any type of miserable situation so that we can keep going in this endeavor. But it's a very fearful situation. So Vidura is letting him know. Now he's going to expand upon this. Pitra Bratra Suhrit Putra Hataste Vigatang Vayam Atma Cha Jaraya Grastaha Parageham Upasase. Pitra, father. Bratra, brother. Suhrit, well-wishers. Putra, sons. Hata, all dead. Te, yours. Vigatam, expended. Vayam, age. Atma, the body. Cha, also. Jaraya, by invalidity. Grastaha, overcome. Parageham, another's home. Upasase, you do live. Who's this? This is my wife, maybe? Yep. Oh, wow. You do live. So translation. Your father, brother, well-wishers, and sons are all dead and passed away. Hare Krishna. And Abhiram makes his Bhagavatam appearance. You yourself are all dead and passed away. You yourself have expended the major portion of your life. Your body is now overtaken by invalidity, and you are living in the home of another. Purport. The king is reminded of his precarious condition. I always have to look up what precarious means. I think it's like obvious, or no, not securely held, or dangerous position, likely to fall or collapse. So his precarious condition, influenced by cruel time, and by his past experience, he should have been more intelligent to see what was going to happen to his own life. His father, Vichitravirya, died long ago when he and his younger brothers were all little children, and it was due to the care and kindness of Bhishma Dev that they were properly brought up. Then again his brother Pandu died also. Then in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, his 100 sons and his grandsons all died, along with all other well-wishers like Bhishma Dev, Dronacharya, Karna, and many other kings and friends. So he had lost all men and money, and now he was living at the mercy of his nephew, whom he had put into troubles of various types. And despite all these reverses, he thought that he would prolong his life more and more. Vidura wanted to point out to Dhritarashtra that everyone has to protect himself by his action and the grace of the Lord. One has to execute his duty faithfully, depending for the result on the supreme authority. No friend, no children, no father, no brother, no state, and no one else can protect a person who is not protected by the Supreme Lord. One should therefore seek the protection of the Supreme Lord, for the human form of life is meant for seeking that protection. He was warned of his precarious conditions more and more by the following words. Even this little situation, we just lost water, right? This is just an example of how really, We have no system that can protect us. Right now, I think Donald Trump just told everyone to evacuate, I think the capital of Iran, Tehran. They said evacuate this place. Why? Because some war is going to happen. There'll be no protection there. Whatever government protection the Iran people had, now they're going to be lost. And now there'll be invaders and things like this happening. So unless you're protected personally by the Lord, you have no protection in this world. By the Lord's protection, we have water, actually. But now, okay, the Lord wants to make some circumstance, we lost water. He put just enough water there to get his worship off this morning, and then after that, he cut it right after. That was the Lord's plan. Not even everyone was able to come and properly worship the Lord because he had a greater plan. He had two people somehow get showered, me and Nitai Priya, and that's it. To be able to do his worship only. And if I didn't plan on worshiping the Lord, he probably would have cut that off on me as well. So this is an example. We have no protection. But ultimately, we get so caught up in, this is my protection here. This is my family life, my career, my wife, my sons, my children, all these things. But he's lost all of that anyway. He's lost it all anyway, all the things he was grasping onto, but he's still pathetically, almost, it's a pitiful situation, trying to grasp onto anything. And now, I'm addressed as king by my nephew who killed all my sons, so let me try and enjoy here in this position. So Vidura is disturbed by this. Just because you don't want to see someone you care about in such a miserable situation. You probably have seen this in someone you care about in just like a really lamentable situation. A couple examples come to my mind. Someone you just love and care, but you just see they can't get themselves out of a terrible situation because they're so attached to something. I think of my one friend. I won't mention him just in case he ever is listening or something. In his exact situation, but he has a job that is just not an ideal job, and and he's lamenting about this job over and over, but due to certain attachments he has around some of the securities the job offers and even maybe some of the recommendations of his family members, he just can't break free of it. And he had so many other good opportunities in his life, and for whatever reason he cannot break free. But anyhow, Dhritarashtra, he's holding on to family happiness, the position of a king. It's kind of the same thing, a job, but he's completely dishonored. He's completely not respected by everyone. Even though in the false, Yudhishthira obviously respects him, but Bhishma, it's going to be revealed, Bhima is always making jokes behind his back, and always like kind of, why? Because it's actually a sad situation. But anyway, we'll continue on seeing. Andha puraiva vadiro Manda pragyascha sampratam Vishirna danto mandagni Saraga kafam udvahan. Andha, blind, pura, from the beginning, eva, certainly, vadira, hard of hearing, manda pragya, memory shortened, cha, and sampratam, recently, vishirna, loosened, danta, teeth, manda agni, liver action decreased, saragaha, with sound, kafam, coughing with mucus, coughing much mucus, udvahan, coming out. Okay, so manda agni, the liver action, his agni in his liver is decreased. So anyway, translation: you have been blind from your very birth, and recently you've become hard of hearing. Your memory is shortened, and your intelligence is disturbed. Your teeth are loose, your liver is defective, and you are coughing up mucus. So Vidura is really letting him know. You're in an old and pathetic situation. Yes. Yes, too much alcohol. Kshatriyas were allowed to drink wine, so it's probably, So actually Prabhupada will be strong now. The symptoms of old age, which had already developed in Dhritarashtra, were all one after another pointed out to him as warning that death was nearing very quickly. And still he was foolishly carefree about his future. The signs pointed out by Vidura in the body of Dhritarashtra were signs of apakshaya, or dwindling of the material body before the last stroke of death. The body is born, it develops, stays, creates other bodies, dwindles, and then vanishes. But foolish men want to make a permanent settlement of the perishable body and think that their estate, children, society, country, etc. will give them protection. With such foolish ideas, they become overtaken by such temporary engagements and forget altogether that they must give up this temporary body and take a new one, again to arrange for another term of society, friendship, and love, again to perish ultimately. They forget their permanent identity and become foolishly active for impermanent occupations, forgetting altogether their prime duty. Saints and sages like Vidura approach such foolish men to awaken them to the real situation. But they take such sadhus and saints as parasites of society, and almost all of them refuse to hear the words of such sadhus and saints, although they welcome show bottle sadhus and so-called saints who can satisfy their senses. Vidura was not a sadhu to satisfy the ill-gotten sentiment of Dhritarashtra. He was correctly pointing out the real situation of life and how one can save oneself from such catastrophes. It's actually a really good points here. One, the nature of a sadhu. If someone's really a sadhu, if you're around them long enough, they're going to make you uncomfortable. They'll make you very uncomfortable. It's not going to be all sweetness and, oh my God, he's so nice to me. He's always telling me how nice I am and how good of a job I'm doing. Actually, guru means heavy. He's here to eradicate your ignorance. So he's going to actually make you very uncomfortable. He's going to really almost get under your skin. He's going to get under your false ego, and he's trying to uproot your false ego. For someone very attached to the false ego, it's a very uncomfortable situation. So actually, this is what a sadhu does, and most people in society, they don't want to hear from the sadhu. So you're a parasite. You're begging for money. You need this. Think about how people might treat you on book distribution. That's how most of society treats sadhus. So this is one thing. Also, Dhritarashtra, he's a religious man, actually, for the most part. He really messed up badly, but now he's practically, for all intents and purposes, he's doing his dharma, except the actual retiring dharma. But he's, by and large, he believes in God, and he's now at least acting moral to some. He's not creating all kinds of disturbance anymore. But actually, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he points out in his Chaitanya Shikshamrita, and actually Prem Prayojan Prabhu, when he was here, he took us through this whole levels of what type of people exist in society, from the immoral atheist to the moral atheist to the moral theist, and then to the sadhaka, and then to the siddha, the perfected being. Dhritarashtra is at like the moral theist stage, where he's, yes, I believe in, I'm practicing my duty, I'm practicing dharma now. Yes, he kind of went to an immoral atheist stage and then a moral atheist, but now he's at the moral theist stage. But now he has no desire. He's very carefree. Oh, it's fine. Everything will work out fine. No, whatever your consciousness is now, at the moment of death, that will be your next thing. It's not like, all right, I worship the Lord a little bit in my life, and so I'm fine. I'll get paradise when I'll go back to Godhead. This is actually moral theistic belief, but this isn't actually reality. Reality is what is your consciousness now? Okay? At that moment, your next existence will be a continuation of that consciousness. So the sadhaka realizes this. The sadhaka then will do everything in their power at every moment to go nearer to the Lord, to absorb their consciousness more and more in the Lord, and to absorb their consciousness in bhajan. Why? Because this is what will give them a chance. And in their next existence, they will start in a more favorable situation. And they may actually go back to Godhead, because why? They're in Godhead right now. Their consciousness is in Godhead. So Dhritarashtra is very foolishly carefree, not at all even to the point of sadhaka, realizing the impurity in his living and his life. And Vidura is going to let him know this. And actually, any sadhu should let the people know it's not enough. It's not enough to just do something. All right, well, I'm good, I'm nice to people. I do good in the world. Yes, that's fine. You can come back to the world over and over again to keep doing pious activities. No problem. But if you want to actually get yourself in a more spiritualized situation, you have to spiritualize your life very intensely. You have to. Or you keep coming back here in this material world and you deal with the four miseries here and the many miseries here on top of birth, death, disease, and old age. And unless you finally realize, okay, let me really give everything I have to trying to please Krishna in sadhana, then you just keep coming back and you'll pick up right where you left off. Maybe in this life, yeah, I did some worship, Right after my college years, I went and I stayed in the ashram. I did some worship for a little bit, and then I got in family life, job life, and then maybe at the end, you'll do a little bit more worship before it's time. And that's good, because you're advancing. But it's not good enough to really free you from the material world. So in order to be free from the material world, you have to take this very seriously. Every day you should have a very serious time in the day. I'm going to endeavor to come near to Krishna. I'm going to call his name. I'm going to try to remove my offenses. I'm going to be repentant. I'm going to realize the urgency of the situation. And I'm going to give this portion of my day, as much as I can, to Krishna, actually. So Dhritarashtra, he's not realizing this at all. Vidura, he realizes. And now he's telling him, you are fool number one. So let's continue. Aho mahiyasi jantor Jivitasya yatha bhavan Bhima pavarjitang pindam Adate griha palava. Aho, alas, mahiyasi, powerful, janto, of the living beings. Jagadish, Haribol. Jivita asha, hope for life. Yatha, as much as. Bhavan, you are. Bhima, of Bhimasen, a brother of Yudhishthir's. Apavarjitam, remnants. Pindam, foodstuff. Adate, eaten by. Grihapalavat, like a household dog. Yes, Vidura this is the nature of sadhu. A sadhu is not going to make you comfortable and glorify you. A sadhu is going to point out what's going wrong and really make you uncomfortable and give you the urgency to practice sadhana. That's what a sadhu will do. And most people will actually reject the sadhu because most people, they don't have their best interest in mind. They'd rather keep fostering their false ego. But Dhritarashtra, actually, he is a learned man. And he respects Vidura, and he knows now that Vidura is telling him the truth. He says, alas, how powerful are the hopes of a living being to continue his life. Verily, you are living just like a household dog, and are eating remnants of food given by Bhima. Bhima killed all of his sons. But being so attached to family life, he stayed in. And he wanted to, keep being maintained by the very family that he tried to pursue war against. But because he is old and he didn't have any, means for sadhana or any inclination for sadhana, this is his destination. So, Prabhupada will continue. A sadhu should never flatter kings or rich men to live comfortably at their cost. A sadhu is to speak to the householders about the naked truth of life, so that they may come to their senses about the precarious life in material existence, very dangerous life they're living. Dhritarashtra is a typical example of an attached old man in household life. He had become a pauper in the true sense, yet he wanted to live comfortably in the house of the Pandavas, of whom Bhima especially is mentioned, because personally he killed two prominent sons of Dhritarashtra, namely Duryodhana and Dushasan. These two sons were very much dear to him for their notorious and nefarious activities. And Bhima is particularly pointed out because he killed these two pet sons. Why was Dhritarashtra living there at the house of the Pandavas? Because he wanted to continue his life comfortably, even at the risk of all humiliation. He actually was in a humiliating circumstance. What's that? Yes, he's like a pet dog. The dog he'll sit down, he'll give you his paw, he'll do tricks, he'll roll over, anything you want, just so he gets a little bit of food, so he gets some comfort, right? You've seen this? I've trained a dog before. I've trained my dog. All right, now sit down. And then he sits, now give me your paw. And he's like sitting there like, he's begging just for like a little food or just to go for a walk or something like this. But this is kind of like what Dhritarashtra is doing now. Yes, yes, you give me my comforts, you give me this, that, and the other thing. This also, men do this, especially in Kali Yuga with women. Yes, yes. Yes, roof, yeah. Honey, yes, yo, what do you want from me? And she says very many unreasonable things, and then the man will, yes, master. Why? He's attached. He is attached. Yes, this is true. Very true. Very true. Actually, that's why my wife respected me, because I decided I would never do that again. I did that many other relationships in my life, and I got pulled around like someone hooked by a fish. Like a fishing hook. Yes, honey, yes, honey, yes, honey. In so many crazy situations I find myself in. Yes. But that's actually why my wife respected me, because I was committed by the time I got to her that I'll never do this again. We can follow Krishna or I'll go a different way. And I ended up being a much better situation than I ever had before in a relationship. Why? Because she was able to actually, she was able to realize, oh, wait. Because usually men give the woman the position, oh, you're the master, and then yes, whatever you say, honey, and then you do like this. And there is a certain scriptural rules where the woman is the master of certain things. So you have to honor this as a husband. When my wife pulls out the scripture on me, I know I'm in trouble. I said, now I know I have to honor this. I have to get her some ornaments. I have to cover certain needs, certain things I don't want to spend the money on, but she's got me. Checkmate, the scripture. But not just any whimsical desire. Oh, I want this and I want this and I want this. And well, how does that line in? So anyway, maybe some womanly affection is there, but just living comfortably in material life. It's actually even at the risk of all humiliation. But Vidura therefore was astonished how powerful is the urge to continue life. This sense of continuing one's life indicates that a living being is eternally a living entity and does not want to change his bodily habitation. The foolish man does not know that a particular term of bodily existence is awarded to him to undergo a term of imprisonment, and the human body is awarded after many, many births and deaths as a chance for self-realization to go back home, back to Godhead. But persons like Dhritarashtra try to make plans to live there in a comfortable position with profit and interest, for they do not see things as they are. Dhritarashtra is blind and continues to hope to live comfortably in the midst of all kinds of reverses of life. A sadhu like Vidura is meant to awaken such blind persons, and thus help them go back to Godhead where life is eternal. Once going there, no one wants to come back to this material world of miseries. We can just imagine how responsible a task is entrusted to a sadhu like Mahatma Vidura. It's a very, if there comes a sadhu in your life who makes you a bit uncomfortable in how you're living your life, this is good actually. Letting you know, all right, I can't go on as is, and they'll have a better opportunity for you. They'll give you a better picture. A sadhu will give you sadhana. A sadhu will turn you into a sadhaka. Somebody who's actually endeavoring, not just, all right, well, I believe in Krishna, I believe in God, even I give him some worship on my own terms. But the sadhu will push you. No. What are you doing? That's not good enough. Go further. Take it further. And so this is what Mahatma Vidura is doing for Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra does his yagyas in the morning. Everyone has the religious principles he does. He does his yagyas. He does everything like everyone else. He's actually around a bunch of pure devotees, the Pandavas and things like that. But for his position, he shouldn't be there anymore. One, he disrespected the Pandavas very sorely, very badly. Two, and it's shameful that he even wants to be maintained by them. But also, he's an old man. An old man has a certain responsibility at this period of his life. And so to stay in family life and to stay in all the comforts of all the family and the luxury and this, that, and the other, that's not the duty of the elder. Actually, Devaki Devidasi, did you ever get your books from her, by the way?
I got my books.
Okay.
I bought them when she was here.
Oh, okay.
But there was that one book on consciousness that you might have.
Yes.
That I might borrow.
Yes, yes. So, but Devaki Devidasi has a whole book on this Vanaprastha Ashram. And it highlights what you actually are supposed to do at this period of your life. The Bhagavatam, we'll get into it here. And she's actually referencing from the Bhagavatam. But there's a responsibility that one takes at that period of life. And it's towards sadhana. Like now, this period of life, all right, you maintained the kids, you did everything, you set up so many things in your life. But now it's winding down. How are you going to organize your life in sadhana to go forward? Even as a grahastha, young people like me, Rishi, and you, Adya, as well, and Piyush, we have to look forward. There has to be a plan in the future. All right, this is where we go next. How am I going to... I can't continue pumping out children and pumping out productivity and pumping out money and all these things. I can't continue doing this forever. 20 years down the line, 25 years down the line, what is my plan so I can focus purely on sadhana? That has to be the plan. Jagadish, you're kind of hopping in very strong now at the later age of life. So, but luckily you have a nice connection with a sadhu who can help you through this, who can lead you properly on how to move forward in this phase of life, because it's a tricky phase.
He may even drag occasionally.
What's that?
Sometimes he even drags us.
Oh, yeah.
You can... He does.
Yeah.
I'm experiencing that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I'm actually going through a lot of things.
Yes.
Of like snowstorms of mental impressions.
Sure.
And I feel like last night, as a matter of fact, at 2 a.m, something woke me up.
Oh, very good. Something woke me up around that time too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, well, this is very good. And actually, if you're taking the instructions of sadhus, you're in good shape, no matter what phase of life you're in. If you don't have that in your life, then this is a very precarious, very fearful situation. And Dhritarashtra lost all that. He actually got all of them killed or insulted all of them by not doing anything. But now the one sadhu left in his life, Vidura, has come back for him. And so now... is his last chance. But the good news about Dhritarashtra, he's going to take the opportunity. And he does an intense sadhana, and he finishes his life properly to get a better destination. Maybe he didn't reach perfection. He did too many sinful activities to reach perfection. But he actually got a much better situation from what he did do in that remaining period of his life. So that'll be explained, actually.
That's such an encouraging piece of this, how everything you do is not for naught. We're constantly building. There's no reason to look back with regret.
Yes.
There's reason to be grateful for how the system works, and that it's all money in the bank.
Yes.
Literally.
Yes.
And we do indeed take it completely with us.
That's right.
And that is...
It's the only thing you take with you.
It's wonderful. That's a wonderful sense. That's a wonderful feeling to me.
Yeah, and you know what? Hope is not lost by losing the life. If you do sadhana, if you do no sadhana, then it's a very dangerous situation, because you could lose the human form of life and you could waste many, many years of time. Who knows, this species, that thing. But if you do some sadhana, you'll continue in that realm of sadhana in your next life. Whatever sadhana you're performing at the end of your life, you'll continue from there on. And your next life will enable you to continue on in your spiritual progress. So that you're right, there's not any loss. Any time and effort spent in sadhana, not a single thing is lost. It's all money in the bank, as Jagadish.
It's really something to feel so joyful about.
Yes.
It's something to rejoice about.
Yes,
it
absolutely.
Really is.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it can make, like your phase of life, being in an older person's body now, it can actually, where most people might become very miserable in this situation, because they're losing all of their good material facilities that they were trying to enjoy. But you, as a sadhaka, now you can enjoy, because you're nearing, and you are detaching and detaching and detaching from all these things. It's easier. It's so much easier in an older body than a young body to detach, from so many things. It depends, it's harder to teach an old dog new tricks too. But at the same time, when somebody is committed in sadhana in an old body, it's very, they can,
a lot of stuff's just out of the way.
Yes.
I feel actually like the grace is liberating me to do what I actually always wanted to do, even when I was in my 20s.
Yes.
I really wanted to pursue sadhana. I wanted to go to India and live with my guru. I wanted to do all that stuff, but I had all this stuff I had to go through. I had to get married. I had to have 2 kids. I had to do this. I had to do that. I had all these desires. And now I got to the point where all that stuff is fulfilled.
Yes.
In a great way.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm actually liberated to, I feel like Krishna came and, okay, I've always had a hold of you,
Yes.
Now we're going to pick up where we left off.
Exactly.
That's all.
So
we're friends. Let's go.
And now you're well situated.
Very lovely.
So
I feel extremely blessed.
Yes,
I really feel more every day.
I see that you are very blessed. But you're very blessed. Everyone is very blessed to be wherever your phase of your life that you can actually have sadhana in your life. Yeah. And to even realize, as like when Prem Prayojan was talking about this, the phases from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Shikshamrita, Chaitanya Shikshamrita, the different phases of human beings, from the immoral atheist to the moral atheist to the moral theist to the sadhaka to the siddha. We actually, only the sadhaka sees the goal of siddha. Mm-hmm. Only the sadhaka actually sees, there's a goal of siddha. Where the moral theists, they're like, well, I'll just be a good person and whatever. They're a bit carefree. They're like Dhritarashtra. But now Vidura is shaking him. No, this is not where you should stay. This is perfection. You have to go towards it. This is the fault in the way that you're living. You're completely immersing in sense gratification, and you're going to lose all of this. All of your facilities for sense gratification they're no longer good. And he's in an old body, which is why, so this is just kind of being explained. But he's going to go through this a little more. And we'll do one more because it's short. But then we'll probably end for today. Agnir nishrishta datascha Garodarascha dushitaha Hritang shetrang danang yeshang Tadatte asubikiyat Agni, fire. Nishrishta, set. Datta, given. Cha, and. Gara, poison. Dara, married wife. Cha, and. Dushita, insulted. Hritam, usurped. Kshetram, kingdom. He's just saying all the sins that Dhritarashtra did. Dhanam, wealth. Yesham, of those. Tat, there. Dattai, given by. Asubi, subsisting. Kiyat is unnecessary. There is no need to live a degraded life and subsist on the charity of those whom you tried to kill by arson and poisoning. You also insulted one of their wives and usurped their kingdom and wealth. Purport. The system of Varnashram religion sets aside a part of one's life completely for the purpose of self-realization and attainment of salvation in the human form of life. That is a routine division of life, but persons like Dhritarashtra, even at their weary, ripened age, want to stay home even in a degraded condition of accepting charity from enemies. Vidura wanted to point this out and impressed upon him that it was better to die like his sons than accept such humiliating charity. 5,000 years ago there was one Dhritarashtra, but at the present moment there are Dhritarashtras in every home. Ooh. Politicians especially do not retire from political activities unless they are dragged by the cruel hand of death or killed by some opposing element. To stick to family life to the end of one's human life is the grossest type of degradation, and there is an absolute need for the Viduras to educate such Dhritarashtras, even at the present moment. So that's actually our job as devotees, is to be Viduras, and to educate people who are Dhritarashtra. It's didactic, all these pastimes. The fact that Dhritarashtra was blind, both physically and spiritually, this is didactic to show us what most people, the Prabhupada's saying, Dhritarashtras are in every home. And most people are completely blind as to what they should do in life. And as they get older and older, I'm watching my parents get older and older and older. And I'm sure anyone's watching their parents. Jagadish, you probably watched your parents leave already. And so on. But there's a need for the Viduras, for those who have been awakened, to help awaken others now. There's a great need. And actually it's this is the great benediction that we can actually do for others. And this is the great benediction that we can do for ourselves. By serving the Lord and by serving others, we get served in turn, actually. This is like the greatest activity. A lot of times we can think, well, I have to worry about my own sadhana, I don't want to worry about others. But actually, one of the best sadhanas that you can have, the main sadhana that's recommended of us, what is it? What's the number one process of bhakti? And that is it's kirtanam. Kirtanam is actually the main process. In order to do kirtanam, you have to do some shravanam. No kirtanam can happen without shravanam. And if you want to do, to the extent that you do shravanam, you can do deep kirtanam, but kirtanam is what really takes you to the next level. Why? Because this is the main process. And by you sharing and spreading this benediction to others, you just compound so much on yourself. Like I was listening something the other day, and Prem Prabhupada was saying how important preaching is as a sadhana. Preaching is a sadhana, actually. It's not that you make time every day. I chant my rounds every day. I might do some deity worship every day. I might even listen to Bhagavatam every day. But as you advance, that's all very good, very necessary. But preaching, sharing with others, there should be a sadhana in your life. How are you going to share with others? That's why I actually do this every day. I can get so much farther in the Bhagavatam if I just go read by myself. If I read by myself, I can actually, I can complete more verses. I can maybe absorb, something a little bit better, or I can memorize, or, I can do this. But actually, by preaching, this is giving me so much more fulfillment than anything else. Why? Because it's holding me accountable to live by these values. Now, there are people looking at me. You live by this value. If I don't live by the value, it becomes very blaringly obvious when I don't get a good response from the people around me. And so then I have to improve. So this is actually, this is the need that in our lives, that we become like Vidura. We have some Vidura in our life, a sadhu, a guru, who's awakened us, and then now we serve them by to spreading the message. Just like our guru is doing for us and wants to do all over the world, now we're carrying that on our back, and we're trying. So,
Go
ahead.
Prayojan said, eradicate atheism. Were you there? I think you were out there that day.
I heard that somewhere.
He said it loud,
yes,
clear.
Yes.
Eradicate atheism.
Yes, it has to be done.
Yeah.
And
it was like a command.
Yes, it's absolutely.
It was a command.
Absolutely, it has to be done. Then this will actually, there's huge benefit to us doing this. It's not like, this is just charity work for others. What does it have to do with me? You get benefit by doing kirtan. You get the benefit by this process. This is with the deeper levels. I was reading something the other day from Jiva Goswami in the Bhakti Sandarbhas. He talks about every different process of bhakti, all 64 limbs of bhakti, how to do it. But then the one bhakti, do you know there's 2 rules to Krishna consciousness? Do you know the 2 rules? What are the 2 rules? No.
Always remember Krishna and never forget.
Always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. What process of bhakti is that?
Remembering.
And that's called smaranam. Smaranam is remembering. But Jiva Goswami, when he talks about remembering in the Bhakti Sandarbhas, he goes in very detail how to do Shravan, how to do Archan, how to do everything. But when he talks about smaranam, it's very short. You know what he says? By doing all of the other processes of bhakti, you can achieve smaranam. That's practically all he says. So this is actually, if you want to actually do the main thing of Krishna consciousness, remember Krishna, you have to do the other processes of bhakti very sincerely. So, the main process is kirtan. This is the main process. You have to do Shravan to do kirtan. So Shravan is like the foundational process you have to do. But at some point, you will have done enough Shravan. Any Shravan you've heard, you can then turn and do kirtan immediately. Oh, well, I heard this about Bhagavad Gita. Hey, mom, or hey, your sister, let me tell you what I just, Or you could find some way, you use your intelligence. How can I get this message across to them? But kirtan is a huge part of your life. If you're not doing kirtan, you'll be checked. You'll be checked at that point. And kirtan will reinforce the shravan. You're rehearing again. When you do kirtan, you're listening to what you're saying, right? Like, let's say I'm Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshina. So now it's a word. I've heard this before. Shravan was done. I've heard this verse. This is how to get the mercy of sadhu. Tadvidi, that knowledge could be understood. Pranipatena, by coming before them humbly. Pariprashnena, asking them questions. Seva, rendering them service. And then, upadekshanti, they will reveal unto you. Jnanina. Upadekshanti jnaninam. That jnana, that knowledge. Why jnaninas? They have that knowledge. Tattva darshana, they see the truth. So, by me hearing that, that's one thing. But by me telling you, I'm hearing it over and over and over again. And then also, it might strike something in your ear, and then you might go and do that. And then actually the way it works is that I will also get blessings. Anyone that you help, now that all the good that they start doing in bhakti, then you also get benefit. You also get benefit from that. And who knows, they might come and help you one day when you're like, have a little lapse of judgment. And they're like, hey, remember when you told me this, and that? Or, hey, you really inspired me in Krishna consciousness at this period of my life. And then they go very deeply. And then at some point of their life, they might preach to you in a moment. And you're like, oh, that was very good. Thank you. Thank you for that. This happens. So, the essence here, be like Vidura. Don't be like Dhritarashtra. Don't get caught up in the family life, the activities. Some might be there. That's no problem. You can have an honorable family life. You can work honorably. You can have a family honorably. You can be a part of society honorably, devotionally. But these things are not the permanent situation. The permanent situation is trying to reach the siddha, the perfected stage. And the process is sadhana. You have to become a sadhaka in your life. If you want just, I do good, so Krishna will take care of me. Yes, he'll take care of you to another situation where you can learn to go deeper than that. So yes, okay, it's good enough. I believe in God. I'm nice to people. We do a little worship, we chant. Yes, you can come back and do just a little bit more than that in your next life. But if you really want to go deeply, then you got to go now. Do it now, right now. Go deeply right now. And then, at the end of your life, however deep you've made it, then you can end up from there. But don't be lackadaisical. This isn't something that, it's good enough. Yes, we should be grateful. Yes, we should be grateful, and we should not, become like a mental case about this. Oh my God, someone might talk to you on the street, and you don't have a good opportunity for preaching, and you'd be like, "Get away from me! You're bothering my sadhana." You don't have to be like that, and you're creating offenses and things like that. So it's not good. But at the same time, also you might see, okay, all right, this conversation is not going anywhere. All right, well, you know what? Very good talking to you. I got to go, and then go back, find your place of sadhana. You should always be finding some place of sadhana. Always some work has to be done. All right, as efficiently and nicely as possible. Do your work. No problem. All right, now I can go back to sadhana. Because it has to be done. You will not survive. How will you not survive if you're not cooking for yourself? How will you do anything properly? You don't take the time to bathe, things like that. But even in that time, you can chant. You can do, even in that time, you can find something. Even now with technology, you can listen to lectures, you can listen to kirtan, you know, it's actually a blessing. But it's also a curse too if you don't use it properly. But anyhow, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining again, Ben, and Jagadish. Thanks for also joining. Adya, thanks for joining. Piyush and Hrishi, thanks for joining. Yeah. Be like Vidura. Don't be like Dhritarashtra. Haribol.
There you go.
All right. So, thanks for joining on that. What's that?